Today's podcast is brought to you by StrongHeartAcademy.com, where no heart is no victory. We are also brought to you by BJJ To Go. If you want to build your game and learn jiu-jitsu, go to bjjtogo.com. Third thing we're brought to you by is Rat Bat. You got rats? Want to kill bats? Kill them with a rat bat. Fourth thing we're brought to you by is hot dog flavored water ingredients. If you want to add it to your smoothie, hot dog flavor ingredient. So today I was going to talk about what makes like a good, I don't want to say fighter, but I deal with fighters a lot. So either MMA, boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo. I even did some calisthenics at one point. And one of the things that you run into, is like not being a balanced person. So I'm not averse to violence or anything like that. I just, sometimes we focus only on being good at whatever the violence is, Sometimes we sugarcoat it and say self-defense, but it's violence. So punching, kicking, whatever, we boil it down is the goal for self-defense purposes, I guess, would be to stop the person and make them tap or say they had enough at that point. And that's kind of all violence, really. I guess even in sport, it'd be the same thing. In boxing, the guy's like, I'm done, or he gets knocked out, incapacitated, choked out, taps, whatever. Now judo's a little bit different. They could be a pin or a ippon, point. But I guess the point is, even if I threw you on concrete, you're probably not that hard. You're not getting back up, or rocks. But we focus sometimes, or the athlete, the fighter, focuses so much on being the best at whatever their rule set is, and I find like sometimes it's not good for your health, like your overall health. And when I think about health, I always think about like the physical, the mental, and like the spiritual part of your life. And a lot of people just cut out the spiritual altogether. But I think that's a terrible mistake. And obviously the intelligence, you can't cut out that either. So I think a good rounded person, a good rounded fighter reads a lot and tries to seek out a philosophy that they believe is true. So truth, like trying to seek truth. That's hard for people, because that's actually a lot of work too. Like studying, reading, really trying to pick apart your beliefs. Do they hold up? Are they real? Now you can argue what's truth and all this nonsense, but that's people that just want to avoid the work, in my opinion. My favorite martial artist ever was Miyato Miishi. He was a swordsman, and he wrote the 5 Rings and stuff. But one of the things that I always thought was interesting about the samurai was the more balance they had in their life. They would go. They would cut someone's head off. They'd write a poem about a cherry blossom, how beautiful it was. Miyato Miishi had a garden. He did gardening. He designed gardens, and they looked for beauty. So when you're dealing with like destruction or death or violence, and that's all you do, it can unbalance you and make you not a good, it could go wrong, in my opinion. You need balance in your life. You need something that brings the beauty out or allows you to see the beauty in the world. because it's not all destruction. Now, I believe it is necessary to learn how to defend yourself and, make sure that you can defend you or your family, or others, looking out for others, or authoritarian situations, even if it's to leave a place and go somewhere else, you may have to defend yourself. So I totally believe that is a necessary thing. I was raised pacifist. Mennonites are pacifists. So I was raised Mennonite, which is a form of Christianity or whatever. They believe to turn the cheek. But I'm not sure that that's what Jesus wanted. I don't know. I know I've read it multiple times. They did have a sword there too in that scenario. So, some say that he took the sword from the soldier. Some people he say carry the sword. There's also passages, take your cloak and take your sword. I don't know. I think it's more about don't seek violence and don't perpetrate innocent and shed innocent blood. It does say that in the Bible too. Don't shed innocent blood. But if it's between you and them and or your family, and they're the ones that put you in this situation, I feel like you have the right to defend yourself and your family and your freedom. But that being said, if all you focus is on is the violence, how can I perpetrate more violence? How can I be more proficient at violence? I actually try to be more proficient at violence. Like, that's kind of my job, and I teach others that. But I also want to teach that, look, you have to have a balance in your life. You have to be able to heal people or help try to heal people, try to heal yourself. Again, like, that's, you see fighters all the time when they lose, they cry, and like, why is that tough guy crying? Because we're emotional creatures, you're emotional creatures, and being balanced, I feel like that's part of being balanced right there. You're not all hard all the time. People want to pretend they are, but again, in my opinion, the most proficient martial artist ever was Miyato Mishi. He killed a lot of dudes, and he killed them very well. But that guy, in the end, didn't seek violence anymore. And youth, especially I think for men, it's easier to seek violence when you're young. The peace is harder to get to, and with maturity, the peace comes more. You're less prone to reaction. You think out scenarios better. You can de-escalate better. That should be part of martial arts too, your ability to de-escalate. That's kind of one of the things they're talking about with the police right now. There really isn't a lot of de-escalation or taught at all. You're supposed to take care of the situation, which is true. Someone has a knife, but if you could talk someone down, I think that is a more preferable skill for everyone involved. Less injuries for the officers too. That people forget they put themselves in harm too. So I'm just putting out my thoughts there on being a more balanced martial artist, and not just the destruction. These dudes. You see John Jones. I feel like that's part of his deal too. Like, he's one of the greatest martial artists ever, and he's an absolute mess. That guy's an absolute mess. He's an extremist. He takes things to the extreme. He parties to the extreme. He takes his martial arts to the extreme. And I don't know. I don't know him well, so maybe I'm totally off here, but I feel like that dude needs to do some other stuff. That's what Mike Tyson was doing too. He was like raising pigeons. And I was like, what do you do raising these pigeons? But that was like him trying to find balance in his life. He was raised as a little kid for crazy violence, in the streets, but then Customato, taught him to be an ultimate boxer, really. They were even hypnotizing him to be a better boxer. So when he started to do the pigeon stuff, that makes sense to me, man. You got to have your balance in your life. You got to, they would have Zen gardens. You got to find your Zen, if you're not always doing that, when I pray for peace a lot. You know, peace in my life, peace in my family, peace with my friends, peace in the nation. You know, if you're always seeking world war, that's a terrible idea. So I recommend finding ways to find your peace, how to share peace, how to, how to perpetrate peace. How could you do that? And then, if it's not that, how do you calm your mind down and find a calmer thing to do and create? I like creating. When you can create things instead of destroy things. So when you're creating violence, you're destroying things. If you can create something of substance, music, art, whatever, I feel like you're putting something out in the world instead of taking it away. And I think that's a great balance if you can figure that out. Whatever it is in your life, like I said, Mike Tyson was doing pigeons. I would never have thought, they're gross to me, but he had some, I'm sure they were fancy pigeons. So that's just my thoughts on that. And I hope you're seeking peace but also prepare for violence. So you prepare for violence, but you seek peace. That's what my philosophy with martial arts is. So, thank you.
Let me talk for just a second, help me feel that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder, either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather be the latter. Instead of getting fatter, let the footsteps resume naturally.